Hello and welcome to another episode of Anthony's Asylum. I'm your host, Anthony. And there are two things I wanted to cover today in today's episode. And the first being something rather fun and out there, I guess. But we have a movie coming out about some angry birds. So I want to talk about that movie coming out and also the new trailer that was just released. And then after that, I want to get into the SAG-AFTRA issue going on right now, the thing between essentially the video game voiceover actors and publishers. And they're trying to come up with a proper way of paying voice actors. So there's a bunch of negotiations going on. There's all these things, but there's an imminent strike that will be happening soon if all of this is not resolved. So yeah, here we go. Now, Angry Birds. Everyone should have seen this coming, obviously. I don't know about this soon, but maybe it's just because Rovio, the creators and developers of the Angry Birds video games, which are, okay, let's go back to the beginning, I guess. I'm hoping all of you out there know Angry Birds, of course. But for those of you who do not, Angry Birds is a mobile video game created for iOS and Android, created and developed by a company called Rovio. They are a Swedish company, I believe, and they like their Angry Birds, I guess. I don't know. So they created this game, which is essentially like a puzzle game, I guess. You have these Angry Birds, a red one, a yellow one called Chuck, some blue ones, a really big red one, a bomb-looking one. So just a bunch of different birds. And as the series has gone on, I mean, there have been several iterations of the series. Most recent of which is Angry Birds 2, ironically enough, even though there have been, 7 or 8 games before Angry Birds 2. And so essentially you have these birds and you are placing them in slingshots and firing them at these green little pigs. And so there you go. That's Angry Birds. So basically it's a slingshot puzzle type game. You have these pigs who have stolen the birds' eggs, which is why they're angry, and they build these towers and forts, and then the birds have to slingshot themselves over and destroy the said towers, thus destroying the pigs. And then you get all these different rewards and blah blah blah, and it's I personally like Angry Birds, I do, and I always get each new iteration because they're usually free when they come out, so I usually pick it up because down the line it'll probably be worth they'll up the price or they'll make it worth something. They usually release it free at first, just to kind of get everybody to download it, and then they'll like a few months or a year down the line they'll start charging for the app. So for all of you people out there who are wondering about that sort of thing, pick it up early, guys. But anyway, I do usually get the Angry Birds games, and I usually play them for a little bit, and by a little bit I mean several minutes at a time, and then I have to put it down, and then I usually don't go back to it again. And that's kind of been my experience with Angry Birds. That being said, I do appreciate the property. My kids definitely love it, especially my son, my oldest son. He can definitely sit there and just play those games for hours, which I don't get, but that is life, I guess. And so it's huge, I guess, in Sweden. It's even bigger than it is here. I mean, it's a whole community wide thing over in Sweden. It's part of their culture. It's interesting, actually. They have a theme park of Angry Birds, essentially, so kind of like their version of Disneyland. And then they have, toys, merchandise, just all kinds of crazy stuff. So, but now they are making a movie, guys. That's right. Angry Birds. It's called The Angry Birds Movie, right? Yeah, there you go. And it is starring Jason Sudeikis as Red, Josh Gad as Chuck, the yellow dude. He looks different. It's weird. It's the whole thing. You should check out the trailer, seriously. And check out the page on IMDb. It's weird. It's they have legs now. I don't know if you're familiar. Like I said, if you're not, I mean, you should be, but if you're not, then, go check it out. But in the video game, the Angry Birds are essentially these little balls of feathers. And now in the movie, they have legs, which is pretty weird. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be weird, but it is. So they have legs, and they're walking around, and they can talk, and they, so there's quite a bit of differences now between the video games and the movie. But like I said, if you see the trailer, I mean, you'll definitely see that, hey, I mean, it is Angry Birds. It's not like too different, but it's definitely worth checking out. So anyway, so Jason Sudeikis plays Red. Really good actors in here, actually. Josh Gad playing Chuck. Bill Hader playing the minion pigs. So I'm not sure how many of the pigs he's playing, or if he's just playing one of them. Peter Dinklage, I guess, is doing a voice of the Mighty Eagle, which makes sense. Danny McBride is doing Bomb, so he's the big explodable bird. And then there are a bunch of other actors here. Tony Hale, Keegan-Michael Key, Maya Rudolph. They're all kind of in this movie. They're all kind of undisclosed at this point, so we don't really know who they're playing. And if you go to IMDb's page, there's not much information on it. There's no plot as of right now. Looks like it's being developed by Columbia Pictures, Rovio Mobile, so Rovio is involved, and Sony Pictures Animation. Now, Rovio being involved is not too big of a surprise, honestly, because Rovio has also been creating little, well, they call them Angry Birds tunes, so they're like these little mini movies or little episodes, I guess, of their Angry Birds doing crazy stuff, or like the pigs, messing with the birds, and then the birds getting their revenge and that kind of thing. So actually really cute. And you can find them in any of the Angry Birds apps. There's a little section called Angry Birds Tunes, and then you just click on that, and then it goes to all the different episodes and movies they've created so far. And really good for kids too. Like I said, my kids will just sit there and watch those more than they enjoy like actually playing the games. So, but it's pretty cool. So the fact that there's a movie coming out now, like I said, is a no-brainer, because it's just, where else do they go now but to the theaters? Sorry, did I say that right? To the cinemas. No, I don't know what people call them. I call them theaters. I guess you can say cinema too. Cinema sounds kind of cool too. The cinema. I don't know. Angry Birds probably doesn't deserve that, but anyway, they are heading to the cinema. So the movie is coming out next summer, 2016, and yeah, just go see the trailer. It's gonna be pretty big, I think. I don't know for sure. It's a huge property. Like I said, my kids are pretty excited for it already. But the movie itself looks to be very different from the games, at least so far. I don't know if there's going to be any slingshots, if there's going to be any forts, if there's going to be any kind of, what the main story is going to be. Obviously, I think based on what we see in the trailer, Red is definitely the main character. He's an angry bird, he's a bird who just is not happy with life. Everything sucks. He keeps getting a lot of crap handed to him. And he just kind of grins and bears it, as much as he can until the very end of the trailer, when he just finally loses control on this really weird bird sign, I guess. But it's funny because you can see like there's like different characters going through like therapy and things like that. So I mean, it looks pretty funny. Like it's definitely gonna hit those humorous notes or whatever you want to say. But and then of course you have the pigs. You can't have the birds without the pigs. So the pigs are there. The green, weird-looking pigs. They come in this boat and introduce themselves in a rather funny way. And yeah, so I don't know if they're gonna have King Pig. King Pig was always the main big bad guy. The big baddie in the Angry Birds series. And every time you got to the end of the game or whatever, he would be the big boss to fight. And obviously along the way there was always the other pigs and stuff that you had to fight and destroy and whatever. All these different, like I said, there's so many different iterations of Angry Birds that it's hard to keep up with where they are now. But the last one I played was Angry Birds 2, and that one was probably the best one so far because it introduced several boss battles as well as some leveling up and different things like that. So it was kind of interesting, but we'll see where this goes. So yeah, Angry Birds next summer, 2016. Get your kids ready. And now I wanted to kind of go into the SAG-AFTRA sort of strike, I guess. It's not really a strike yet, but it probably will become one. But anyway, just to kind of clarify, SAG-AFTRA stands for Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. So it is the union, essentially, for all actors who are on TV, who are in video games, movies, all kinds of stuff. And basically what they do is they make sure that the actors are paid what they deserve, right? And so if you are essentially an actor, if you take your career seriously, if this is what you do, you have an agent and you are usually part of SAG-AFTRA, the union, or you pretty much have to be these days. There's a lot of non-union actors as well, and they typically work for like independents, student films, that kind of thing, which is okay too. But in order to get the benefits of SAG-AFTRA, you need to be part of SAG-AFTRA. And so basically what we have here is a debate, all right? Well, there's a vote, I guess. There's a vote coming up October 5th, I believe, to decide whether or not these actors are going to go on strike. And essentially when a union goes on strike, which I'm sure you've heard this all before, but when a union goes on strike, they don't work. They essentially, everything shuts down. And I actually remember when I was back in film school, one of my screenplay professors, I was taking his class during the big writer's strike that happened back in, I believe it was late 2006 and then into 2007. I think it lasted almost a whole year. It was crazy. So it was the writer's strike by the Writers Guild of America. And he was a member of that. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting because every class he would kind of update us on what was going on and that kind of thing. And it was definitely a hard time. And that was the time when, I don't know if anybody remembers, but 2008 was when a lot of films were coming out that did not have writers, or at least writers from the WGA. And it really showed. Like, there was just a lot of really bad movies that came out. Unless, of course, you count, The Dark Knight. I mean, that's the one movie I can think of in 2008 that came out that was actually really good. And, but there was, like I said, it just caused a lot of problems. The fact that, a lot of people don't really think about that fact. But yes, I mean, most movies these days, if not all movies, are written by writers, screenwriters, who are in the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, as well as TV writers. So any awesome show that you love watching on TV, probably most likely, in fact, created and written by writers who are in the WGA. Another fact is even reality TV, talk shows, late shows, One of the biggest shows that suffered from this actually during that time was Jay Leno's show, The Tonight Show, in fact, before he retired. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty huge deal. And I think now we're getting into this debate between SAG-AFTRA and video game publishers. It's so crazy. I knew eventually we would get to this point, but it's just like, okay, the main thing that they're talking about right now, there are many issues, but one of the things that they have disclosed is the matter of back-end bonuses, or I guess another word for it would be residuals. And it's kind of a thing that's been around in film and TV for a little bit. It is becoming more popular for actors to seek that out in their contracts. And now it's becoming a question of whether or not actors deserve it when they perform in a video game, which, when you think about it, I mean, the video game industry is a huge, huge industry. I mean, it has surpassed the movie industry in terms of pure just revenue. Sorry. And so now there's this issue of, well, let's put this on the table, right? Why aren't these actors not getting residuals? The other thing is, why are their actors not getting stunt pay, that kind of thing? Because a lot of video games now require motion capture performance. You know, big video games like Uncharted or The Last of Us or Mass Effect or let's see what else. Just a lot of big games out there now that have these actors in, you know, motion capture suits and things like that and doing these crazy things. But a lot of times video game companies do not have stunt coordinators, they don't have you know, proper breaks for these actors doing long, you know, vocal sessions and things like that. And so the union is kind of taking notice and trying to get these publishers to understand. And one of the ways, you know, I see both sides, you know. Sorry, man, my throat right today is just not that great. Sorry, guys. And I'm trying to see both sides. And one of the things that the publishers are saying is that, you know, there's some directors out there that have come out. Most recently, Alex Hutchinson, who directed the Far Cry 4 for Ubisoft, has recently come out and had some rather interesting tweets. Let's see if I can find these here. I just wanted to read some of these. But this is following certain voice actors who have come out and said that they are definitely voting for the strike. Actors such as Will Wheaton, Steve Bloom, just prominent voice actors in the video game industry, as well as, you know, in other medias and that kind of thing. But this is what Alex Hutchinson has to say here. He says, if at Will Wheaton gets royalties on a game before myself or any of the others who spent years, not weeks, working on it, the system is broken. That's an interesting point. But he was responding to Will Wheaton here. Will Wheaton actually tweeted, he said, I love voice acting in video games, but our employers don't seem to think performance matters, so I voted yes to strike. Okie dokie. And then Alex Hutchinson continues here at Will W. The idea that not paying royalties is equal to us not caring about vocal performance is ridiculous. And then he just tweeted some more things. He says, ask him if he gets residuals for Star Trek, TNG, or movies. The answer is no, and the actors contribute more for those. Good point. And then he says another thing, profit sharing is great, but profit is a loose term, and the risk and investment is not equal across all jobs. So, you know, I don't know. There's some things that he says, you know, he also goes on to say voice actors are already amongst the highest paid people on any AAA game that he's worked on. Probably a bunch of other games. And that's true. And the thing is, you know, honestly, what publishers should be looking at, if it's not already happening, is taking care of their own people. You know, and that's kind of what people like Will Wheaton are saying. You know, they are empathetic towards the developers and all these people who are involved in making a game. I mean, they understand, yes, they spend, you know, years of their lives sometimes making these games. And I mean, it is kind of crap that, nobody's getting a back end or bonuses or residuals or whatever the heck you want to call it. But, I mean, here's the thing, like, if the actors aren't getting it, then, I mean, you can pretty much damn well guarantee that developers aren't getting it, you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what this should be focusing on in a way. Like, if these actors do strike come October 5th, which it has to be a majority vote, obviously. So I think it's something like 75% of the union needs to agree to strike in order to strike. Otherwise, it won't happen. So on October 5th, we will find out for sure if, in fact, it does happen. And if it does, well, then basically it's up to the publishers to figure out, okay, to say to them essentially, okay, let's take this back to the table. Let's put some new stuff here. Let's figure this out. But I think, like I said, it's part of a larger issue. It's not really about, because I mean, we know this. I mean, voice actors, especially if you get voice actors who are SAG-AFTRA, who are actors who have been in many things, who are award-winning actors, all this kind of stuff. Of course, they're going to get a lot of money. They deserve that money because they are really good at what they do, right? But at the same time, a game is something for people to play. It is highly interactive. It is something that you sit down and you get invested in, not only the gameplay, the graphics, the story, the characters, all kinds of stuff. And it kind of becomes, kind of more than a movie in that sense. It becomes you become a part of that game, and you are controlling, you become the character that you're controlling, and that kind of thing. So whereas movies are very sort of passive, I mean, you definitely go along for a ride, but you are very passive. I mean, you're watching everything as it unfolds. You're not in any way interacting with it. Whereas a video game, you are the video game. You know what I mean? You are controlling what is happening and that kind of thing. So, and I think if, people who are involved with movies, there are certain tiers and there are certain things that happen. I know there are creators, there are directors, there are producers, there are these different levels, these different departments who do get certain residuals and bonuses and that kind of thing. But even in the movie industry, you'll notice that actors are usually the biggest paid, so they get the most money. I mean, look at Robert Downey Jr. for the Iron Man films. I mean, what was the last I heard was for the first Avengers movie, he got something like $50 million. I mean, think about that. That's just, there's no way in hell Joss Whedon, the writer-director of Avengers, got that much. But I would argue he did more work, right? Am I not right? I mean, or what about the designers of a movie, or the set decorators or the set creators, the set construction people, or even the visual effects people, the special effects, all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's so many people involved in making a movie, and the same thing is true for video games. So I think, like I said, the bigger issue, in my opinion, is, who's taking care of these developers, who's taking care of the people who are actually making this game, who are up, at the wee hours of the morning and don't stop until the late hours of the night. I don't know. It's just something to think about, It's good. Like I said, it's definitely good. I mean, that's why these unions exist. So it's good that SAG-AFTRA is, doing this and kind of bringing this to light and saying, hey, we need to do something about these actors. But at the same time, I think these publishers, rather than, trying to stop this from happening, should be kind of thinking, well, what are we doing for our own people at this point? What are we doing for our developers? What are we doing for, the people who are actually making these games? I hope that they think about that beyond just thinking about the actors. Because I think, I can see both sides. Like I said, I can see how if you were a publisher, you're like, oh man, these damn actors are so selfish, and look at them, all they want is money, and they want back end, and they want bonuses, and what about me, but I can see the actors also just kind of thinking, well, why shouldn't I get that? Look at my voice. I did such a great performance in this game, and so many people are buying it, and it's selling millions of copies, and people are buying it, and it's getting all these downloads and whatever. Years down the line, and I'm still not getting any money for this. And so they look at it as, well, they're losing money. They're when in fact they should be getting something out of it. I see that part of it too. I definitely see both sides. It's going to be interesting. And next, I don't know if I'll have an update by next episode, but definitely the week after that, I'll probably give you guys an update on that, because that's happening October 5th. So we'll see. We'll see if they go on strike or not, and we'll see what the video game publishers have to say in response. So that will be very interesting. But everything I'm seeing right now on Twitter especially is actors are going for this strike. So I don't know. Only time will tell. But anyway, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Anthony's Asylum releases on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and my Patreon page every Friday for the most part. And if you'd be so kind to visit my Patreon page and just donate what you can to my cause. I do not charge for these episodes. These episodes are perfectly free for anybody to watch, or listen to rather. But it would help me out if you could donate just a little bit to me, so I can make short films and all that kind of stuff, and documentaries, all that stuff I enjoy doing with my company Cross Beyond. So again, thanks guys for listening. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but I look forward to seeing you guys again, and girls, next week.